Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living Podcast. I'm your host, Sana, as always. And today we are going to slow down a little. Not with productivity hack, quick mindset shifts, but with something much more real, actually. That kind of conversation that sits in your chest long after the episode ends. Now, listeners, there are moments in life when the sentence is not, I want to die, but it is, I cannot take this pain anymore. I cannot carry this pain anymore. And those moments are quiet. They're lonely. Sometimes they even look functional on the outside. You show up at work, you go outside, meet with your friends, you smile, you say, oh, I'm fine. I'm just doing great. I'm doing fine. But inside, you're not fine at all. Listeners, my guest today knows that place from the inside. When she was 20 years old, she tried to end her life twice. Sitting in the car with six bottles of sleeping pills inside her, on the way to the hospital with her mother, she realized something that changed everything. It was not that she truly wanted to die, she just wanted to kill the pain. Her name is Susan Michel. She's an author, suicide prevention advocate, and two-time suicide survivor. She wrote the book Surrender to Joy From Suicide to Serenity. She's also the founder of Trust Transformational Truth. And listeners, her mission is to help people identify and process emotional pain so that real transformation can happen and they can open up to their own innate brilliance. And for more than 30 years, Susan has been a teacher and student of A Course in Miracles, which is a metaphysical Christian self study program that focuses on reconnecting to our true nature by undoing the blocks we have built against love. She believes that our natural state is a peace, love, joy, and happiness, not because life is easy, but because when we face and heal our pain, joy is on the other side. So, before we jump in, listeners, a gentle note. In this conversation, we will be speaking about suicide, emotional pain, and deep personal healing. So, if you are in a tender place, please listen in a way that feels safe for you. Take breaks, press pause if you want to, and come back later if you need to. If you are in an immediate crisis, please reach out to a trusted person or crisis support in your country because you are not alone. You do not have to sit in this alone. So, all right, Susan, welcome to the Mindful Living, and I'm really really honored to have you here with us.
Yeah, thank you, Sana. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to our wonderful conversation.
Absolutely. So Eh, Susan, because we are going to explore what it really means to surrender to joy and how exactly it looks like to own our pain instead of running from it. So let's start with your journey here. Like, um, as you share that at 20 you tried to end your life twice. Then you realized in the car that you actually didn't want to die. You just wanted to kill the pain. So when you look back with the wisdom you have now, what pain were you really trying to kill in that season of your life?
My two core pain points were abandonment and betrayal. I
Mm,
grew up in a family that was very uncomfortable with
mm,
negative emotions.
mm,
So they never validated any negative emotion in their children, in me or my sister. So it was very important to my family that everything appeared good on the
mm,
surface. So when I had negative emotions that I was experiencing, I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know how to process them. So,
Mm.
because I was unable to process them, I stuffed them into my unconscious mind. And what happens is when we repress our emotions, those very emotions end up guiding our life. That is one of the most important lessons that I teach. um the world as a the world as a whole does
Mm.
not teach us to own our pain. The society teaches us to project our pain onto other people. Society teaches us to project our pain onto outside circumstances. And when we
Mm.
continue to project our pain, it kind of keeps the pain alive. It exacerbates the pain. So again, as a child, I either repressed my pain, sometimes I would project my pain, but I did not know how to own my pain or to process my pain. And then I had so much pain, I had no idea how to alleviate that pain. So I tried to
Mm.
kill myself. And as you so astutely said, it wasn't that I
Mm.
really wanted to die. I just wanted to
Mm.
kill the pain. It wasn't that I really wanted to die. I just wanted to get out of the pain. And I wasn't able to own my pain or identify my pain. So pain was all I knew. Once we learn how to own the pain, then what we'll find is the pain will heal itself, and we will find the joy on the other side. The second chapter of my book is entitled Darkness. The dark depression was my darkness. The second chapter of
Mhm.
my book is entitled Depression Was My Darkness. And there is a line in Oriah Mountain Dreamer's invitation poem. And
Mhm.
what it says is, I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without trying to hide it or fade it or fix it. And that's what we need to learn to do. We need to learn to sit with the pain. And then the next line of that same poem says, I want to know if you can dance with joy, if you can allow the ecstasy to fill you from the tips of your fingers to the bottom of your toes, without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. And what we need to remember is that when we have the courage to sit with the pain that life is reflecting to us, what we will find is that's an opportunity to heal. That's how healing occurs. Once we own the pain, we'll find that joyful place on the other side, which is the
Mm.
truth of who we are.
That is really, really powerful. I mean, I can literally, feel the strength in, everything that you said. And one, it's kind of a thought, Susan, that, you know, as you mentioned that, we need to learn to own the pain. Now, if we look at, especially in our childhood, like, I think it's very rare that we are taught about all these things. Um, Mostly we are taught about how to, there's the standard template that, we have to study, we have to get good grades. And yeah, it's all necessary. However, good grades and, go out, earn, have a good life, or maybe be highly ambitious or high achieving, then only, we have our value established in this world. We give, like, we just prove our existence. um and especially when we have so much pain kind of boxed within us, we often feel as if, um you know this pain has been inflicted by maybe the system or the others or the conditions or the scenarios. Then why should I be suffering, and why should I work on myself to own up that pain? Why cannot others change? Why cannot the system entirely change? And also, if there is no one to understand, then what's the point of all this? I mean, How can we navigate these kind of thoughts, because it can really really get us into this dark space, as you mentioned that in the beginning.
Yeah, we are never, ever a victim of circumstances. And most of
Mhm.
us believe that we are. The
Mm,
reason that we are never, ever a victim of circumstances is because we are actually, most of the time, unconsciously creating our own reality. Either we
mhm,
are experiencing joy or we are being given opportunities to learn from. Most of the time, life is a combination of both. But what I do know is we are never, ever a victim of circumstances. And A Course in Miracles teaches us to
mhm,
take full responsibility for our life. It's very empowering to see life that way. So instead of blaming other people, instead of blaming outside circumstances, once you realize that you were the one that actually created this circumstance, then what you can do is you can actually heal the circumstance. You can learn the lesson that the universe is trying to teach you, and you can heal the circumstance that you're in. Yeah, you said a few things there that were very insightful.
mhm,
You spoke about how many people they uh, grow up very goal oriented, feeling
mm,
like if they can just get the good grades, if they can
mm,
just accomplish what they set out to accomplish in life, they will feel good enough. This is what
mm,
society teaches us. This is what our parents teach us. You know,
mm,
the universe kind of comes from a lack mindset. I'm not good enough. I have to do good things in the world to prove my worth. But what we will find is even if we do accomplish exactly what we set out to accomplish in the world, we are still not going to feel good enough because our happiness does not come from the world. Our happiness comes from something within ourselves that we need to get in touch with first. So, A Course in Miracles is kind of teaching us a role reversal. You know, the world, as A Course in Miracles defines it, comes from an egoic thought system. The egoic thought system is I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I have to find something of the world to complete me. And once I do find this thing in the world, well, then I'll feel good enough. But what we find is once we attain what we want in the material world, that sense of satisfaction is fleeting. It does not last. Then we go on to want more and more and more, and it is placing our satisfaction and our worth in the world, and the world can never provide it. I mean, that was a big reason that I became suicidal at the age of
mhm,
20, because I
mm,
grew up feeling like I was not enough. I grew up feeling like there was something wrong with me. My story is I would look at the magazines, I would look at the models on the front cover of the magazines, and I would say,
mm,
okay, if only I could be a model, in a magazine.
mm,
If only if I could look as good as those confident women on the front of the magazines, then I would feel good enough. And so my story is I went through this process of becoming a fashion model, and I thought that would quell my dissatisfaction. I actually got what I wanted. I became
mhm,
a fashion model. I got accepted by the top modeling agency in Boston, which is where I lived at the time. And
mhm,
even though I got accepted, even though I could say, oh, now I'm a fashion model, and even though I look glamorous in these pictures, it
uh-huh,
didn't quell that inner angst. And that's when I became hopeless. And that's when I tried to commit suicide, because the world can never satisfy us. What we need to find is we need to find that sense of peace within us, and it is always available to us. We just need to slow down and open up to it.
Wow. I mean, first of all, I really appreciate that you shared that, because I think the first step itself to begin with is, sharing uh, maybe your darkest or the moments that you really feel very weak or kind of defeated, or maybe completely hopeless. And I also want to get bring A Course in Miracles and to highlight, because you have been a teacher and student of ACIM, for over 3 decades. Susan, for someone who is depressed or suicidal, metaphysical Christian self-study program, it might sound abstract or even a bit out there. So, what made this course feel practical and not just spiritual theory when you were at rock bottom?
Well, A Course in
Mhm.
Miracles states so much. Um, the course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is
Mhm.
beyond what can be taught. It does
Mhm.
aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So when we are feeling depressed, when we are feeling suicidal, we cannot feel the love that we are a part of.
Mhm.
So, what A Course in Miracles is doing, since it can't teach us the meaning of love, it teaches us to identify the blocks to love. And that's what's happening when we are depressed. We are blocked. Once we can learn to identify the blocks,
Mhm.
then we can release the blocks. And that is how healing occurs. I am a Course in Miracles was written
Mhm.
after Sigmund Freud. There is a
Wow.
lot of Freudian psychology
Yeah.
in A Course in Miracles, and I am a strong believer in psychology. I think when I was depressed, I really needed a psychologist. I needed a psychologist as well as A Course in Miracles to help me identify the blocks, to help me to identify the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is my natural inheritance. So I'm a strong believer in psychotherapy, and there is a big psychotherapeutic component to A Course in Miracles. It teaches us to identify the blocks, because if we can't identify the blocks end up guiding our life. But once we can identify the blocks, we can choose to release the blocks. So when I was suicidal, that's exactly what I needed. I needed to identify my blocks.
Mhm.
Two core pain points that I had was abandonment and betrayal, and I needed to learn to
Mhm.
identify those blocks. I needed to learn to own the pain. Now, equally important, okay, we first of all, we need to identify the blocks. We need to identify the pain. Equally important is forgiveness. There
Yeah.
are many people out there, and I know a few people that are in my personal life that are very intelligent about
Mhm.
identifying their blocks, but what they choose not to do is to forgive. What is equally important, that is the core principle of A Course in Miracles, is forgiveness. Because if we identify the blocks, if we stay enmeshed in the blocks, in the ego, we'll never get
Mhm.
out of that drama. What we have to do after we identify the pain, we have to forgive the person that caused the pain. And by forgiving the person that caused the pain, we will be able to connect with our own innocence. So, first of all, it's identifying the blocks. Second of all, it's forgiving. Once we can forgive the person that caused the pain, what we can do is we can embody our own innocence, and that's where our joy lies. We can only feel the joy that we're a part of through forgiveness and through connecting with our own innocence. And that's a core theme throughout A Course in Miracles. Because when we forgive the other person, what we're actually doing is forgiving ourselves. And we can't connect to our true power until we can completely forgive ourselves. A Course in Miracles says that over and over. Those who want complete peace can only do this through total forgiveness.
Mm, I 100% agree with that. There's this very, big misconception, especially with regards to forgiveness, that it's a sick sign of a weak person, because a strong-headed, strong-willed person will always, remember that, if someone has done wrong to them or wronged them, definitely going to be in the bad books. However, I think it's kind of a value that even, uh, I was also taught in my childhood that the strongest person on this earth will forgive you. So I think that is something many people kind of, misread it. So I 100% agree with you, Susan. I think
The
it's
world
definitely. Mhm.
teaches that if we forgive the other person, we're kind of giving them permission to do it again. We're giving them
Yes.
permission to mistreat us again in the future. But it's the opposite. When we hold on to unforgiveness, when we
Mm.
hold on to resentment, we're actually drawing negative circumstances to us. Once we can forgive what happened in the past, we're actually releasing that situation and we're clearing the way for a more positive future, because we all have trigger points in our unconscious mind, and the universe is always trying to heal us. The universe is always giving us opportunities to heal. So when I have a pain point, when I have a point of unforgiveness, I'm going to actually draw that very same circumstance to me, because not because the universe wants to punish me, but because the universe wants to teach me and give me another opportunity to heal. So once I can forgive that circumstance, then I have learned my lesson, and then I will no longer need to face that circumstance. So forgiveness is my way out of hell. My forgiveness is my way out of negativity. Forgiveness is where my freedom lies. And not only am I forgiving the other person, I'm forgiving myself. And as I said before, and it's such an important part, it's like my power, my personal empowerment is there for me when I can embody my own innocence. And to embody my own innocence, I also have to see that innocence within my brother, within the other person. Of Course in Miracles calls it my brother, but within the other person.
Mhm. Mm. Beautiful. And before we wrap up, let's talk about, practical steps as well, because here not only we are there to focus on, what is right or what is wrong or the status quo, but we are also here to explore solutions and answers. So, Susan, right now, someone who is listening to our conversation, who is in that quite suicidal pain that you described, um, they may be high functioning on the outside, smiling and joyful, but happy, not joyful, happy, but inside they're falling apart. Um, when this episode ends, what is the very first small step you would invite them to take in the next 24 hours?
Say a prayer, ask for help. We all have angels, we all have spirit guides. Course in Miracles, calls uh, it the Holy Spirit. But the angels can't come into our lives to help us until we ask. So I would say pray, ask for guidance, and the universe will give us opportunities to heal. it's so important to slow down. Um, I think writing is a great way to get in touch with feelings that we have within us,
Mm,
journaling. I'm also a strong believer in psychology.
mhm.
I think to reach out to ask for help from a therapist is very valuable, very beneficial for most people. I'm a very strong believer in therapy. Definitely slow down, um, pray, meditate. I meditate just about every morning, and it doesn't have to be a long meditation. It's you can sit still for just a few minutes to ask your own inner guide what it is that you need to learn, because we all have the wisdom that we need to heal inside of us.
Mhm.
So when we can be still, we can hear the guidance of our higher self. So, journaling is great, prayer is great, um, getting help from another person, a psychologist or a social worker can be very beneficial. A Course in Miracles is a wonderful healing tool. I mean, A Course in Miracles has the workbook for students, so it has a lesson each day to focus upon, and it is a very, very healing tool. A Course in Miracles is broken up into 3 sections: the text, the workbook for students, and the manual for teachers. So in the workbook for students, every day it gives you a different lesson to focus upon. Here I am, I'll just open at random, be
Mhm.
to one of the lessons here. And actually, I'm on lesson 60,
Mhm.
which is a review of a few previous lessons. So, lesson 46, which it is reviewing, states, God is the love in which I forgive. So, to focus on forgiveness can be very, very healing. God is the strength in which I trust. To trust is very healing. To trust in our higher self is very healing. So there are a lot of positive messages that we can learn by focusing on a different lesson each day in A Course in Miracles workbook for students.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. First of all, thank you so much, Susan, for these words of strength and hope and encouragement. I think even for the parents or partners or friends who are listening and they are scared, they might say the wrong thing. Um, do you think is there anything that you would ask them to stop doing immediately, and maybe do one thing that they can do immediately instead of that?
Ask, yes,
Friends.
be open with whoever is experiencing the pain. Ask the child how he or she is feeling, because when we are going through difficult times, most people just shut down, and
Mhm.
they don't want to share. But I think what's really important for parents or friends of people that are depressed to do is to ask them to share whatever they are feeling, and don't try to fix them. Just be open and non-judgmental
Mhm.
to whatever they say, because when people are down, they don't necessarily want to be fixed. They just want to
Mhm.
be heard. So be
Yes,
very open to whatever your friend or your child or this person in pain is saying. And
absolutely. Mhm.
encourage them to get into therapy, because I am a strong believer in therapy, and therapy can be so beneficial and life-changing.
Great, great. Thank you for going straight to the practical, Susan, and to everyone listening. Um, if you are the one in pain, your job is not to have a 5-year plan. Your job is to stay with yourself for the next hour and reach for one thread of support. If you love someone who is struggling, your job is not to fix them. Your job is to stay present, listen more than you talk, and believe them when they say they are not okay. And Susan, thank you so, so much for your honesty and heart you brought to this conversation. Really, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Sana. And if your listeners want to learn more about me, I have my website, which is surrendertojoy.net, www.surrendertojoy.net. I have my book that is available on Amazon. It is Surrender to Joy from Suicide to Serenity by Susan Michel.
Wonderful. Listeners, I'll definitely have all the links and details in the show notes. And I think we have covered a lot of ground today. Um, and what I'm taking away from this is joy is not the starting point, it is the result of doing the uncomfortable work of feeling, forgiving, and telling the truth. And of course, please connect with Susan. Refer to the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. You can find her book, Surrender to Joy From Suicide to Serenity, and also learn more about her mission and offerings at surrendertojoy.net. And if anything in this conversation brought up big feelings for you, please be gentle with yourself today. Take a walk, write something down, write in your journal, sit with someone safe. And if you are in immediate crisis, reach out to a trusted friend, a mental health professional, or a crisis line in your country. For the same, I'll have all the details once again in the show notes because you do not have to carry this alone. And thank you for tuning into this episode of the Mindful Living. I'm your host Sana, and I'll be back with more conversations. Thank you.